What's up, everybody? Hey, this is a new edition, a presidential election edition of YouTube Live Everything Phoenix. Now, obviously, we're not going to talk politics because if I did, you probably would all leave, and I wouldn't blame you. This is about real estate, about housing, about local economic data that effectively drives the local housing market here in Phoenix. So, we're going to dive in here and talk about today what the election upcoming tomorrow um, will have in terms of an impact on Arizona, the housing market, the local economy, because that does matter in most cases. So, no matter who gets elected, not just the president, but obviously Congress, and of course, even more localized to Phoenix is the local elections, where the local elected officials, not just in the Senate or House, but also like the regulatory boards and things of that nature. So all this stuff matters, and we're not going to go into every single one. Trust me, that would be boring. But we're going to hit a couple hot topics and get through this in our normal 20 minutes to maybe 30 minutes at the most. And we're also going to give you a housing update, guys. Where's the housing market at today? Is it balanced? Are we in a seller's market? Or maybe we're in a buyer's market? Which one do you think? I'd love to know your guess if you're brave enough to put it out there. If we are in one of those three markets, which one is it? We're going to give you the answer here on this show. So stay tuned for that. But this is important because we want to talk about the effects of an election on Arizona's local economy. So if you want to share where you're watching from, that'd be great. It helps curate the content for the YouTube algorithm. Or if you want to comment, we would love that too. Make this a two-way conversation as much as possible. We put a lot of time and energy and effort in researching all this stuff to give you the data of what's going on. But I'm going to share my screen and we're going to jump right in. So here we go. Voila. How do presidential elections impact the housing market? Because that's what this show is about, guys. This show is a housing market show, and specifically a housing market show for Phoenix, Arizona. That is the situation. So what does this short Q&A have to say about that? All right. So here we go. Question: does an election slow down the housing market? Answer: from October to November, home sales decreased by 9.8% in a typical year and 15% in an election year in October and November. Now, this is nationwide. I couldn't get the specifics of this for just Phoenix, but this is nationwide. This year, 23% of first-time home buyers are waiting until after the election to buy. So if there is 100 first-time home buyers in your community, your zip code, your town, your city that are looking to buy, 23 of them are saying not going to mess with it until after the election, which means there's going to be some more demand coming to the marketplace, potentially 23% more demand on the first-time home buyer side after the election occurs. So that's interesting. Okay, next one. Question: do more homes sell after an election? Answer: home sales tend to bounce right back, and 82% of the time they've gone up, not down, the following year. This year, experts forecast home sales will rise from 4.6 million homes being sold nationally to 5.2 million in 2025. Okay, now guys, I'm not a genius here, all right? I'm not, but I do know supply and demand. I didn't miss that class in college, and I know that if there's more demand that comes to the marketplace, what does that do to the price of that product, assuming supply stays the same? It goes up. Okay. Why? Because there is less of it. It's in more demand. Now, if these numbers are projected to be somewhat correct at 5.2 million from 4.6 million in 2024, that's a huge jump. That will create more demand. Now, can the supply rise to meet that demand? I don't know if it can. It'll be interesting to see. I know home builders are still building. I know permits are being pulled across America, especially in Phoenix, but we have a supply shortage issue in terms of those permits being pulled, new homes being built, new construction across America, including Phoenix. So because it takes 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to build a house from the time it is permitted, ready to go in terms of the land, the infrastructure, the entitlements, that is something you can't move on very quickly. So if more people all of a sudden decide to jump into the housing market to buy a home, that could cause prices to go up in 2025, maybe not by a lot, but go up in 2025 as opposed to go down, assuming supply stays the same or doesn't rise at the same rate as demand. Okay, next question. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Question: what happens to mortgage rates in an election year? Answer: from July to November in election years, mortgage rates have decreased 72% of the time. This year, we've been in a volatile environment, including average rates as low as 6.08% in September. We're talking the 30-year fixed here, okay? Overall, they've come down from nearly 8% last fall. So guys, from July to November in election years, mortgage rates have decreased 72% of the time. Now, they have decreased, but they have increased as well from the decrease, right? It peaked on the low at 6.08% in September, and now it's back up to around 7 or so percent. Last question: what happens to home prices after an election? Answer: prices have risen. Listen now, risen 88% of the time in the year following an election. This year, nationally, home prices are projected to continue going up by 2.5% in 2025. So we just talked about supply and demand, and the reason why, if you have 5.2 million sales across America as opposed to 4.6 this year, an increase, which is fairly significant, that will potentially cause prices to go up, assuming supply can't rise to meet the demand. Well, this right here says that they're expected to go up 2.5% in 2025. And prices have risen 88% of the time in the year following the election. Guys, this is a huge number, and one that the odds are clearly in the favor of prices going up traditionally, let alone the current market conditions that are out there. Guys, I know it feels like affordability is out of control. Affordability is high. It is very unaffordable to buy a house right now in many places across America, including Phoenix. It is. And I know elected officials are working on how to solve that problem, if at all possible. But the reality is just because we feel things are high, prices are high, which the feeling is true, they are high, relatively speaking, to what they were in decades past. But the supply and demand will not be, you can't break it. It's tried and true. It's a market fundamental. And so if you have more demand than you have supply, prices will continue to go up. I don't care if you're buying houses, diapers, toilet paper, or bicycles. It doesn't matter, right? That's how it works. And we all know this, but I just want to drive it home because a lot of times we let our emotion get in the way because we feel like it's high, and it is high. But that doesn't mean they're going to automatically come down because they are quote unquote high. So we got to follow the data, right? Now, going back to my screen here, I'm going to share it again here. The facts show presidential elections right here at the bottom of the red only have a small and temporary impact on the housing market. Guys, I know we are vested in the candidate we want to win for whatever office it is. I know that. But the reality is the facts show right here, presidential elections only have a small and temporary impact on the housing market overall, especially if you get gridlock in Washington, guys. Obviously, there's Senate races, there's House of Representative races, Congress, right? And if one party doesn't get complete control of the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, then it's going to be very hard to do much of anything. As long as you have one opposite party occupying one of those three branches or three chambers, if you will, it's going to be potentially some gridlock and a lot of these things that maybe somebody has some crazy plan to do something, right? Elaborate plan, extreme plan, whatever it may be. But if they don't have the buy-in of all the other chambers, the checks and balances of the government, it's going to be hard to get all those things through. Now, they can still push some through. We all know how that works, but getting all of it could be a little challenging. So don't be in too much despair, I guess, when it comes to the housing market. You can be in despair about other things if your candidate doesn't get in, but the housing market overall should be pretty resilient when it comes to that, okay? So I'm going to share my screen now and go back to this. Here we go, guys. Congratulations. We are in a buyer's market. I asked that question earlier in the show when we first started. Are we in a seller's, buyer's, or balanced market? Guys, we are in, officially, the Phoenix area, a buyer's market. Why? Because look at the Cronfer report. It is 89.9. You can't get any closer to a balanced market. 90 to 110 is a balanced market, right? 90 to 110 is a balanced market. We are currently at 89.9. So we are in a buyer's market, guys. If you're looking to purchase a house, just follow the data. I know it's still Prices are still relatively high, relatively speaking, for the last year or decade or two. But if you have the means and funds to do it and your situation calls for this, then you should seriously consider it. I can't tell you to go out and just do it because I don't know your specific situation. But if you give me a call, I'd be happy to chat with you guys. You can call me at 480-660-5974, 480-660-5974, and we will chat with you about your specific situation and give you our professional opinion, doing this over 19 years on maybe if this is a good time to buy for your specific situation. We'll get you hooked up with the creative financing or regular financing or whatever you need to get done in order to make that happen, okay? So just let us know. Now, back to the screen. We are in a buyer's market. Buyer's market. I haven't said that in I don't know how long. We're in a buyer's market, guys. This is wild. Okay. Now, November 4th, looking deeper into into contract ratios, price ranges, we see the following. This is a crazy, awesome, good graph for anyone who wants to geek out and know where things are going, segmented per price point. So look at this chart, figure out what you may want to try to afford or what you can actually afford, and look at what's happening, guys. Contract ratio. This is the contract ratio. If it's higher, it's good. If it's lower, it's bad. That means the amount of homes that are on the market for sale and the amount of homes that actually sell and the ones that don't sell in these price points. If you look at under $300,000 right here, guys, it's a negative 32% change in the contract ratio year over year. That is wild. And look at, you got negative 31%, negative 15, negative 21, 18, 17, 17, 1, 10, 9. Now, here are the outliers. $1.5 to $2 million has been doing really well. The contract ratio is up 20%. Okay. And then you have the big one, 5 million. The luxury home market is resilient in the Phoenix area, primarily obviously Scottsdale and Paradise Valley. Up 44% year over year. The contract ratio is up. This is crazy. Now, the ultra luxury over 10 million down minus 67%. But it's a smaller sample size there because you don't have as many properties selling or on the market for sale. So that can be skewed a little bit. You know, you might just have like one sell when typically you have like three, and then that skews the numbers quite significantly in the ultra luxury home market, guys. But that is interesting. Look, here are the outliers right there. You can see. So if you're looking to buy in those price ranges, your contract ratio hasn't gone in your favor over the past several months or to a year. But if you're in the other price points, what an opportunity. Now, obviously 700 to 800 hasn't moved much, just down 1%, but a lot of these are down negative. And so, man, if you're looking for 400 to 450, you are given an opportunity to get in right now and buy. Could these numbers change tomorrow, the next day, especially after the election? Yeah, they could. Guys, they absolutely could. But I've always been taught to zig whenever else is zagging. Guys, what is the famous quote by Warren Buffett? He has several actually, but he says, be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. And right now, a lot of these negative numbers on here show the chart, negative contract ratios year over year. So a lot of people are what? They're fearful. So now's the time to be greedy. And by that, it can mean a lot of things, right? But greedy could just simply mean act to buy a house if you can afford it right now, because it may not get much better over the next 6 to 12 months. Now, obviously, no one has a crystal ball. It could, but based upon the data, what we do know is what we do know right now. And that's all we know. And right now is a good time to purchase a house. Could it get better? It could get better. But right now is a good time to purchase a house in the Phoenix area, generally speaking. Okay, back to my screen. All right, now I'm going to go down here and show you this here as well. November 1st, here's a little commentary, but we won't read the whole thing. That's a lot. But the market has been deteriorating for most sellers over the past 8 months. Many of those sellers will probably be blaming the weak demand and lamenting stubbornly high interest rates. However, a large factor in the change is the increased supply of homes over those past 8 months. Okay, so it went up 37%, which is a lot. 37% is a lot, guys. So a lot more supply than there was in the past. Okay. And at the bottom, we'll say, I advise keeping a close watch on the active counts, meaning supply, and the contract ratio over the next 8 weeks. Why 8 weeks? That's the end of the year. So we'll see what happens. That could change on a dime. But the good news is, if you're watching Everything Phoenix, if you're watching our live show, we will be covering the Cromford Report every single week. So you know if this pivots on a dime. Chances are, if you want my crystal ball, semi-small prediction here, I do think that, honestly, no matter who wins the election tomorrow, the Phoenix market, can't speak for the markets across America, but the Phoenix market is going to pick up a little bit. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, but it's going to pick up a little bit from where it's been doing the past month or two. And if it does that, I think that would catapult us in 2025 pretty strong when it comes to moving the needle back towards a balanced market and eventually a seller's market in which there is appreciation in home prices overall. There you go. Now I'm going to go share my screen and we're going to jump back into this because we got some good stuff to cover here, guys, regarding the election still. Here we go. Let's start with this. Security, big deal here, right? Maricopa County officials confident but wary of threats ahead of election day. Okay, this is the, who's this? The, I think, county communications director or something like that. All right, so basically all these elected officials are trying to plan for worst case scenario. I know the National Guard has been dispatched in multiple different cities across America in anticipation for maybe something happening the next day or two. But the Maricopa County Sheriff, Russ Skinner, he said, I guess it's surprising to me to some degree, and also concerning that elections have now become a focal point of the Maricopa County area, where we used to not have that back prior to 2020. Why? Because before 2020, Maricopa County, Phoenix, was primarily a one-sided state, I guess a red state, if you will, for the most part. Arizona was in general. But that has changed, especially since COVID and all the migration all over the place, right? Got a question here. Hey, KD0211. Love it. The issue is not housing shortage or supply, but affordability. Yes, I agree. Inventory keeps rising, but demand is not there because prices are too high. Prices will have to go down for demand to come back. And I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. I think there's a lot of credence to what you just said. But here's the thing. Demand will have to go up. And I have a feeling, KD0211, that it probably will, because traditionally speaking, in Arizona, we've had a lot of money outside the state flow into our state, especially between the months of, call it November and April, to take advantage of the weather and all the things that Arizona has to offer. Now, obviously, prices are going up, so the money flowing into Arizona over time may get less and less attractive to come down here. That's a very good possibility. But if the seasonality charts hold true, that's the demand probably will increase, and supply just can't increase that fast. And so chances are, I wouldn't be surprised if we do have prices actually go up. I'm calling it right now, guys. I could be wrong, but I do think it probably will, even though they're already high. Okay. Thanks for the comment, though. Florida, Texas, etc. Prices are going down. This is true. West Valley prices are starting to go down because inventory keeps rising and demand is not there. This is also true. West Valley guys are talking about the West Valley side of the greater Phoenix area. That includes all those suburbs. And that is true. They're actually decreasing all over the board for the most part in the Phoenix area right now. As you saw the Crawford report, we're looking at a buyer's market, which means the trend is not our friend, and it's been going like this. If that continues, prices will continue to show a month-over-month or year-over-year decline. And honestly, we could probably use that, right? In fact, not probably, we could use that. It makes it more affordable for everybody if that happens. Obviously, people with equity would be a little disappointed, I'm sure. But, sometimes you have to reset things a little bit, at least, to get them back on track. And that's where I think a lot of people would like to see this go. But I don't know if it's going to, because at the end of the day, it comes back down to supply and demand. So if supply continues to increase slowly, which it is, and demand stays where it is or even goes down a little more, then you're right. You're going to see prices continue to start to slide. And it wouldn't be the end of the world, I guess, for most people, right? It might be a good thing. Benjamin, when people say they're waiting until after the election to buy, what are they waiting for? Fantastic question. A lot of people are fearful of what's going to happen. And here's what we know. What we know is that 8 out of the last 11 presidential elections, so that's going back, at least 44 years or so, the housing market has increased in prices and the number of home sales the following year. We know that. That's a fact. No matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat. Doesn't matter. And so the chances are, and we just covered the stats earlier on this show here today, that they're going to go up. But people have this fearful thought that their person's not going to get in, and if they don't get in, then everything's going to go down the toilet. You know what I'm saying? But what inevitably has happened in terms of the history of our country, that hasn't, no matter how bad things got for that person that was going to buy a house and held off, it didn't get bad enough to where most people decide, what the heck, I got to move anyway, so I might as well go ahead and do it. I can't change it, guys. Once the president, whoever it is, gets in the office or gets elected, that's it. You can't change it for 4 years. So I think a lot of people come to peace with that and just say, yeah, I got to move anyways for whatever reason, and they just move forward. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, right? Because if you know that's true heading into the election, before the election, and you want to buy a house, why not just go ahead and do it now? Because now you'll be zigging when everyone else is zagging, and you'll probably get a better deal on the house you want to buy right now because you have less competition. Just saying, right? So Benjamin, fantastic question. Thank you for asking that. Okay. Keep them coming, guys. If you have more questions, let me know. But I'm going to keep going over here. This is the article again about, threats of, at ballot boxes and, election places. But they're just talking about how in recent days, mailboxes and ballot drop boxes have been damaged in Arizona and elsewhere across America. And people are trying to destroy ballots, apparently, in these boxes. Unfortunately, that's a very sad thing. I don't know what's wrong with these Americans. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. Why you do that is just beyond me. But it's happening. And so they're just saying they're watching everything and trying to make this a safe place to have an election. Okay. Now here's a column in the Phoenix Business Journal. My view, Harris, Trump offered different takes on real estate investment. That's interesting. What are they in this situation? Well, let's just get right to some brass tacks here. Okay. Obviously what he's saying is that no matter who gets in, they have contrasting solutions to the housing crisis and broader economic landscape that touch all Americans. Okay. So let's go here. What do you say? The Trump ticket emphasizes tax cuts as a means to stimulate economic growth and investment, building on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which reduced corporate taxes during his administration. The proposal seeks to lower the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15% and permanently extend capital expenditure depreciation rules. On the other hand, the Harris ticket supports increased taxation, including a tax on unrealized gains for Americans with a net worth of $100 million or more in assets, which some argue can negatively impact housing investments. Their plan to address the housing crisis includes building 3 million new housing units, offering tax incentives and down payment assistance for first-time homebuyers, as well as establishing a $40 billion fund to promote affordable housing. The Harris regulatory agenda also includes Stop Predatory Investing Act to limit large-scale acquisitions of single-family rental houses by institutional investors. Trump's stance on deregulation is clear, especially in the housing sector. He advocates for reducing regulations for home builders and generally supports allowing the private sector to operate with minimal government oversight. His broader philosophy leans toward deregulation in various sectors, including energy and housing, favoring private sector control. Okay, so there's the two contrasting issues, or not issues, but solutions that they have to the housing problem. Okay, so that's that. We know the different views now. Let's go to the next thing, guys. We got all kinds of good information for in this one. 6 high-stake employment rules that could tilt on the election. Let's just hit these really quick, okay? Because they do have different things. Let's see here. They might have a Trump deal and then a Harris deal. Let's see. A victory by Vice President Kamala Harris would mean employers can expect a continuation of those efforts, which are up here. The Biden administration has unveiled a wave of new rules and regulations that have altered the relationship between employee and employer. Many critics of the changes say they will increase costs and regulatory burdens for businesses. A victory by former President Donald Trump, on the other hand, would mean a slowdown of these efforts. He said it could also mean a reversal of several policies affecting employers if the past history involves changes in administration is any indication at all. And he says there's a lot at stake. We are watching all of it. Number 1, overtime pay and eligibility regulations. Number 2, stricter independent contractor regulations. Number 3, National Labor Relations Board. Okay. Number 4, the OSHA walk around rule, guys. It's the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which is a governing body that a regulatory body. FTC non-compete ban and its ongoing court challenges. And last but not least, more potential for state and local action on the workplace. So pretty crazy, right? A lot of different stuff between the two candidates and the two administrations, but employment rules will be one thing that will change or not by who gets into the office, most likely. Okay. My view, innovative policies could boost home ownership, increase wealth for all. Yes, I would agree with that. But how do you do that? This is complicated, guys. How do you actually go about doing that? Well, this gentleman's, this guy is CEO and broker at Malta & Co. Incorporated and former president of the National Association of realtors. And what he's saying is that you have some disparity in home ownership amongst ethnic groups, of course. And then in terms of how many people own homes. And then he said policy changes could boost housing supply. Yes, they could, but how are you going to do this? Kind of like a politician, unfortunately. But again, he doesn't have a whole lot of good. I mean, I should say good. He just has a whole lot of nuts and bolts, meat and potatoes ideas outside of the good things, which is NAR supports bipartisan legislation to decrease the equity penalty and incentivize more long-term owners to sell their homes. That's a good idea. Attract private, how you going to do it? Not sure. Attract private investment to build and rehabilitate owner-occupied homes. Incentivize the conversion of commercial buildings into residential units and mixed-use properties. And allow certain descendants of veterans to take advantage of their unused VA home loan benefit. Now, let's be very clear. I like those ideas. I think most Americans would be on board for all of that. But how are you going to do it? And then you have to have everyone agree, right? Not necessarily everybody may be in Congress on some of these issues, but most likely you probably do. And then you get locked up and nothing really happens. But the whole point is make the American dream of home ownership more realistic for younger Americans as they, get older, come out of college, etc., which is great. I mean, I think everybody will love to see that. Okay. Now, going back here, let's go to the next one. We got some good stuff, guys. Proposition 479, again, we're talking about Arizona right here, seeks to continue half-cent sales tax that helps fund Maricopa County public transit and roads. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because this is something on the local ballot here for tomorrow with Maricopa County for transportation. Guys, it's a half-cent sales tax, okay, through 2045. So we're talking another 20 years or so. The revenue would help create 11.9 new miles of light rail and 28 miles of bus routes, as well as a new traditional and HOV freeway lanes. Okay, so it's a transportation revenue generator by taxing the sales tax. Okay, sales tax on everything you buy in Maricopa County. Okay, now obviously future projects, you have all kinds of stuff going on, but there's a lot of people. The Goldwater Institute says they don't like it because it's going to be a tax for fewer than 1% of Valley residents use the light rail, and the organization doesn't want residents paying for services they don't use as the cost of living increases. And so this is obviously going to be a heated debate, right? One that's going to be, I'm sure voted on here and figured out here real soon, the next day or two. But interesting, would you vote for the transportation tax or would you not as a Phoenician? Well, that's your choice because you are a Phoenician and you get a vote. If you were wondering, here are Arizona's top political donors in the 2024 race. That's interesting. I would like to kind of see who that is. Well, let's pull it up right here. Okay. Transactions ranging between $25,000 and $844,000. Okay, it's pretty wild here. Business leaders and all kinds of stuff play active role in politics too. A lot of these donations are coming through that. You can see right now. Let's see that Timothy Mellon of Wyoming, the largest amount record for a second quarter was $65 million gift for fundraising for the Republican Party. And on the Democratic side, you had Michael Bloomberg donating personally himself $19 million. And so on and so forth. But you can see right here, they don't say who they're giving their money to, but here are the top 10 or so donators in the state of Arizona for presidential election stuff. So you follow the Republican money, follow the Democrat money, and here's these are top disbursements for Biden Harris, president for Arizona. Okay. So American Express credit card payment for $159,000. Someone had their credit card ran for $159,000. As a donation. That's interesting. It's a lot of money. Wow, it's a lot of money. Okay, here we go. So my view, this is more political stuff, guys. Vote to assured water supply key to Arizona's future and economic growth. Now, we're not going to go in depth on the water thing right now because I want to keep it on the theme of what's at stake for the elections and even the local stuff here, like Prop 479 and other props. But I bring this up because what this guy is saying is that on November 5th, the Governor's Regulatory Review Council will decide whether to approve an amendment to Arizona's Assured Water Supply Program. If you are not familiar with the state's Assured Water Supply designation, no new subdivisions can be approved without first providing the water that can be provided to these homes for 100 years, a rolling 100 years, okay? And this guy's argument in a nutshell here is saying that this Groundwater Act was established in 1980 and further clarified rules in 1995. Since then, a lot of homes and people have moved. Homes have been built. People have moved to the Phoenix, Arizona area. And so it's outdated in terms of the legislature and the policy. So what he is stating in a nutshell is that there should be an amendment to allow the water supply that is in many cases right under the ground for a certain area to be able to be used or counted at least against on paper so that they can move forward to continue to provide housing for people. Because apparently, guys, at the end of the day, with this water thing, we have plenty of water. Now, does that mean we have to be frivolous with it? Absolutely not. We need to continue to conserve. But did you know, guys, that Phoenix is this number 2 most water conservation city in the entire world, behind Tel Aviv, Israel. Number 2 in water conservation. So we need to continue to do that and make it better and better and better. But the reality is, because we are using the same amount of water we were using now in like 1958, primarily because of agricultural that's gone away or been more efficient. We have a lot of water. We have a surplus actually of water right now, and that's stored in our aquifers under the surface, under the ground. So what this guy's arguing is that if I share my screen, I can show you at the very bottom. He's saying this guy right here he represents the District 3, the Pinal County Board of Supervisors. Okay, he's saying to email the governor's regulatory council at this email right here to show your support of the governor's review council before the November 5th meeting. Let them know an assured water supply is important to you. So for anybody who wants that email, there it is, GRRC comments at azdoa.gov. Oh, but we're just getting started. We have a few more here, guys. My view, investors should play the long game amid election economic uncertainty. So we're not going to go into this whole article, but the title explains it all. No matter what's going on with the presidential election, I would say, and this guy would agree, play the long game. Because, guys, investment markets go up, they go down, and they go up, they go down. It's cyclical. And if you play the long game, no matter if you like the person in office or you don't, it's probably going to be just fine as long as you play the long game. Okay. Benjamin, here we go. A lot of Biden's value in the 2020 election was $20K in student loan forgiveness. It ultimately did not happen. Yes, that is very true. But isn't it just like politicians to do that, right? On both sides of the aisle, right? They're going to say they're going to do one thing, knowing they probably can't get it done because they need like full support of Congress and, blah, blah, blah. And yet they say it because it's a great headline. It's a great marketing headline on a TV commercial or whatever. And that's sad. It's sad because you hope that the average American goes, well, hold on here. How are they going to do that? And there's no explanation of how. Or if they do give an explanation, you read through it and you go, that seems kind of, I don't know how that's going to get done, right? And then you obviously vote accordingly. But yeah, the student loan debt did not occur. Supreme Court, I believe, shot that down. And I don't know how that would work anyways, honestly. I mean, you have people who are holding notes, people who have lent their money out or, whatever the fund that they control or whatever it is. And they expect a return. That's why they let their money out. And to wipe that away would be wild. My guess is the government would come in and make that up, right? They print the money, send it to the person who owed the money and say, you're made whole, go away. Problem is that creates more what? Inflation. When you print money, inflation. And we already know the price of eggs, bread, auto insurance, gas, and whatever it may be, energy is already really high. So that would make it even worse, unfortunately. But anyways, I appreciate you saying that here, Benjamin. Here we go. Oh, thank you for Kamala. Kamala is offering $25K. How can we expect that to come through? Seems that would ruin the market long term if it even worked. And that's the point, Benjamin. You read my mind. That's what we're just talking about with inflation. To come up with that money, you have to either cut from somewhere else, or you have to raise taxes on people, or you have to print the money. And no three of those are great solutions. Now, obviously, cutting elsewhere could be a good solution potentially, because Lord knows in our federal budget, I'm sure we have plenty of stuff that is going to who knows what, and for what, beekeeping, research, and I mean, not that. Listen, I'm not here to say bees aren't important or anything else, right? So I shouldn't even mention anything, but there's some wild stuff in the federal budget, right? I think we all can agree with that. Some of you might agree with it. Some of you may not. But man, you could probably cut a lot of inefficiencies out of the budget to make that money for housing or whatever it may be. But unfortunately, that's not what our government. That's not how our government works. When they have the money, they spend it. And unfortunately, there's no accountability unless you vote and get someone else in there who hopefully one day, once upon a time in some fairy tale U.S. America land, will hopefully adhere to fiscal spending, so our kids and grandkids aren't loaded with debt. Right? Okay. So by the way, we're at 37 trillion, I believe. I think it's $37 trillion of debt right now. And guys, that's not a political statement. That's both parties are guilty. It's just that's a lot. Okay, here we go. Next article. Phoenix still a top 10 real estate market to watch going into 2025. This is a positive thing. Okay, what they're saying is that this guy right here runs a research think tank company, whatever, or that's what he does. He has Phoenix drop from a second place ranking a year ago to number 10. So we're still in top 10, which is good. And number 1 is Dallas, just ahead of Miami at 2, Houston 3, Tampa 4, and Nashville at 5. Phoenix comes in at number 10, and I love it. It's enviable and shows that the region is still growing on all cylinders, which is a good thing. Boyd said, that's thanks in part to its increased standing in the semiconductor and bioscience industries. Guys, this is huge. This is huge, okay? And then more massive developments are coming to Arizona, guys. So this is good stuff. You have the Trevallis out in the Buckeye area. You have Arizona State expanding presence. You have a lot of things happening, guys. Phoenix ranked number 6 for both home building prospects and local market perspective on topics such as the economy, investor demand, capital availability, and development opportunities in the latest report. Okay, so Phoenix, still a great place to be, good place to invest. All right, here we go. Challenges to building enough affordable housing units, guys. We're not going to go on all this because this gets a little technical, but there are 2 primary programs aiding the development of affordable housing in the manner of low income, affordable housing stuff. You have this 4% low income housing tax credit with financed through a bond, and you have a 9% LIHTC program in Arizona. So in both cases, projects must be located in a qualified census tract or a DDA. Difficult area to develop, which are those areas right there in Phoenix. If you want the full map, call me, hit me up on social media, Instagram at Kelly Cook Homes, and we'll get you this stuff. Okay. Financial challenges. There's all kinds of fun maps, right? All right. Next thing, homeowners shell out a lot more in property taxes than they did in 2019. Guys, did you know how much your property taxes increased? Holy cow, guys. Nationally, property taxes have increased nearly 30% since 2019. Guys, 30% money out of your pocket going to the government for having the same house you've always owned. The difference is it's worth a lot more, and so the government wants their piece, unfortunately. So there you go. But here's some of the places, guys. It's pretty crazy, right? Other cities like San Antonio, Houston, and Fort Worth saw similar percentages of around 18 and 19%. Those are significantly higher than the 8% share in a typical homeowner's housing bill nationally. Nationally, your housing bill, 8% of it is going to property taxes, but the highest in terms of property tax payment is Newark, New Jersey, New York, San Jose, California, and New Brunswick, New Jersey, all high property tax areas. New York, Austin, Nassau County, New York, and New Brunswick homeowners also spend the biggest share of their income on property taxes nationally, guys, between 7 to 10%. That's compared to the typical 4% nationally that the average homeowner spends. Okay. So anyways, that is, I thought was very interesting, and that's going up primarily based on the government needing more money. Okay. Scary housing market for home buyers, prices, mortgage rate, interest, inventory on the rise. Obviously, you're not going to read that article because that gives it all away. Pretty self-explanatory, guys. And if you are in Buckeye, I include this one here because this is fun. This is awesome, actually. In Buckeye, Buckeye's very large. It's the second largest suburb city in all of the Phoenix area, right behind Phoenix itself. And it is poised for an explosion of residential and commercial development over the next 5, 10, 15 years. And right now, there's so much residential in Buckeye, but not a lot of entertainment or a big entertainment district. And Buckeye's looking to change that. So right now, you have this big parcel of land, which is 2,100 acres for a regional entertainment district, surrounded by all this extra wide open land and residential development. So this would be great to have Buckeye have a big entertainment district that most people who live there can go and have some fun. That's coming down the pike. Okay. Now, 2 more things. 30-year fixed We are up at 709, 705. That's a lot. And then this article says rates refuse to drop ahead of election. How about after? Well, in a long story short, there's all the graphs supporting this, that, and other thing. But guys, the jobs report was not good. That came out last week. And here's what he says. What can we expect next week? At the very least, we'll learn a lot more about how much of the past month of pain was truly driven by politics. The safest expectation is for lots of volatility, something that can play out in either direction. In other words, if you're waiting for rates to drop after the election, you have a 50% chance of being disappointed. Love that, because it's true. If traders already know the rates would drop after the election, they wouldn't wait to trade it. Well said. Good perspective. And last but not least, guys, after all this election talk, let's have some fun. You ready for this? You think your house is haunted? Are you required to disclose when you sell it? We just had Halloween. And so there's a nice little haunted house, maybe. When Halloween approaching, Business Journal asked several residential real estate agents about what might happen if a seller believes their home is haunted. Here you go. Sellers do not need to disclose that they might be selling because of suspected paranormal activity or that they suspect the home may be haunted. Guys, this is so true. It's crazy things in Arizona, guys. Let me just tell you really quick. In the state of Arizona, there are 3 things you have to disclose if you have knowledge. There is one that you do not if you have knowledge. And one of those is if someone in the house has HIV or AIDS, can't disclose it. If there's a homicide, murder in the house, can't disclose it. If there's a sexual predator or, in the neighborhood, whatever, can't disclose it. But that is public record, so you can go look that up yourself, right? But if the house is haunted, you do not have to disclose it. So there you go. There's your news, weird news for the day. Guys, as a proud American myself, please go out and vote. Either way you do it. I already voted, and I'm looking forward to see who wins. But no matter who wins, when it comes to the housing market, either way, probably not going to have too much of an effect. And go out and buy that house, sell that house, invest in that house. You will not be sorry. But call and consult a real estate professional first. 480-660-5974. Guys, thank you so much, and happy election day tomorrow. We'll see you here next Monday.